So hello, welcome back to some of you. This is the short presentation from the Riverside County Law Library. My name is Jenna Pontius. I'm the Public Services Librarian here. With me is my colleague, Andrea Valencia. She's the Reference and Instruction Librarian. She'll introduce herself in a second. So we'll be presenting today. So we have 3 locations. The main location is located in downtown Riverside on the corner of 10th and Lemon. The Indio branch location is located in Indio off of Highway 111. And we have a resource center at the Ronald H. Roberts Temecula Public Library off Powaba Road in Temecula. And so currently our main location is the only location that's open to in-person services Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I'll be going over a brief overview of the library and our services, and then Andrea will be going over legal research. If I can get my screen to work. There it goes. Okay. So like I said, my name is Jenna Pontius. I'm the Public Services Librarian. You would contact me for public programs like the one that we're in right now. For tax clinics, if you were in the Inland County Legal Services presentation, you saw that they do tax clinics and they do partner with us, and we present them once a month. We also are doing a Lawyers in the Library hybrid program in Temecula. We'll have customers come into the Temecula Library and we'll be able to Zoom with an attorney for free. The topics are estate planning and probate, and then we have a civil family law attorney. So for more information, we can pop that into the chat in a second. I also lead tours of the library website for virtual. And once we would resume in-person tours, I would do the in-person ones. We are open 9 to 4. So if there's a tour that you want to bring in during that time, we can accommodate that. I also handle any parking questions. We have a parking lot at the downtown location that you can pay for to get a monthly spot, or it's $8 a day. And conference room questions. We do have 2 conference rooms at our the downtown location that are available to check out. There's some fees that are on our website. And so I won't have to schedule the appointments, but if there's any issues or any questions, I would be the one to answer that. And now over to you, Andy.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Andrea Valencia, and I'm the Reference and Instruction Librarian here at the Riverside County Law Library. So you would contact me.
I don't know if it's just me, but I can't hear you.
Can anyone else hear me? Okay. Okay, so maybe it's just
someone else is saying that they can't hear you. I'm not sure what do you have yourself on mute?
No.
Like
no.
Your computer?
No, 2 people say
Zoom.
They can hear me.
Oh, okay. Everybody else can hear you but me, apparently.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. I can
okay.
Hear you. Okay.
I don't know what's going on. The tech today has been terrible. So go away or go along, Andy. I'll just guess when you're done.
Okay, so you would contact me for legal reference questions. If you and your organization are interested in legal reference trainings, you can contact me and I'd be happy to provide that for your organization. You can contact me if you just maybe want to do it on your own, but you may need some tips to help you along the way. Or if you have any questions on our database logins or log into any of our databases, I can provide that information for you.
Thank you for the thumbs up. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but we'll figure it out. So, what is the law library and what do we do? This is a screenshot of our website, rclawlibrary.org. And we are the only public law library in the county of Riverside, serving its 2.2 million residents. So by law, we are funded by a small portion of the county's civil court filing fees, and we're governed by an 8-member board of trustees composed of community judges and attorneys. With an approximately $1.5 million budget, we make our collection of over 90,000 volumes of legal materials available throughout our 3 locations in Riverside, Indio, and Temecula. Our mission is to enable everyone in Riverside County to perform the highest level of research and practice through free and open access to the law. Our goals are to make available to a public a balanced and fiscally sustainable collection of print and electronic legal materials that is current and relevant to the information needs of the community. If you were in our earlier sessions, we highlighted one of our electronic resources, the Lexis Digital Library. If you did not get it, we're not available to see that. We do have a recording that you can watch. Another goal is to provide access to modern and well-maintained facilities that enable library users to engage in research, study, and collaboration. So we are going to be starting construction in October on our library. The library will still be open. We're just redoing the HVAC. We also provide knowledgeable and fully skilled library staff that facilitates access and use of available legal and information resources. Me and Andy here today, there's others. And to serve as an effective conduit between the public and the world of legal research and practice, which Andy will be going over later in the presentation, some legal research tips. So the Riverside County Law Library is part of the state county law library system, which was established by the California legislature in 1891. The law library has been in Riverside since 1941, but the current building that we're in, that you see the picture of, was built in the 1970s. We're governed again by the 7-member board of trustees, and our budget is $1.5 million. And if you're wondering, if you recall that I said that we were funded by filing fees, we don't know how COVID is going to impact our funding because of the courts being closed during COVID. So we have print and electronic resources. We lend continuing practice materials, the MCLEs, to local attorneys. You have to register to get a library card, and we do provide a receipt for your MCLE hours once you've checked out the item and returned it after a week. Our collection covers California, federal, and general, mostly civil law. It's very foundational and doesn't have a lot of unique topics, or like if you're going to dig down into a particular legal issue, we might have like a treatise on that, but it's not going to be very robust. We carry many of the materials found in law schools, and the library is primarily a practice library that's focusing on practical materials for attorneys and the public. So some of our practical materials are online resources, our legal databases like Westlaw, LexisNexis, and CEB Online are the 3 of the most popular. And then to go along with the popular materials within that, the print materials, the CEB practice guides, NOLO press titles, and California forms of pleading and practice. The people who use the public library, so we are a public law library. We don't restrict to just attorneys or judges. We allow anyone doing legal research in to use the library, and they can use our resources or the public computers to conduct legal research. We do rent conference rooms to attorneys, local agencies, and companies needing space for depositions, but we don't limit it to those tasks. And we do provide space and support for the law family. We did do this prior to COVID. We'll see if you were in the court's self-help presentation, they're currently only doing online and virtual appointments. So prior to COVID, the family law facilitator was conducting multiple monthly workshops for the public at our library. Once they start doing in-person services and our construction is finished, we can revisit offering that again. And then we were offering space and support for Ayala, who we just heard from, and other federal pro se workshops. So these workshops that were happening in person are not happening now, and it's just a wait and see to see when they resume in-person services and what happens with COVID. We do get this question a lot, and if we have library cards, yes, but the but is that we only have materials, the MCLE materials that check out to attorneys. All the other materials you have to use in the library. You can't take home, like the CEB practice guides. And to get a library card, the attorney needs to show their like California bar card or give us the number and fill out an application. So all attorneys who are actively practicing law in California have to complete this legal training. And so they are able to check these materials out to meet their trainings. Here is a fun fact. So back in 1960, a prisoner came to use the law library to do his legal research. He had an auto theft case that he was representing himself in, so he was a self-represented litigant, and they brought him over in manacles. Even the sheriff's department brought him over, and he conducted his legal research for the day, and then they took him back to the prison afterwards. So it was, I guess, a very slow day in the news because it was reported in the newspaper about the prisoner coming into the law library. So I guess not a lot going on in December of 1960, but it's a fun piece of Riverside County Law Library history. So something that's important to clarify, I don't know why it just went forward, is that the law library provides legal reference and research and not legal advice. Andy, is this where you're going to take over to talk about the difference between, okay. So just give me a thumbs up since I can't hear you of when you want to go to the next slide.
So yes, so as Jenna mentioned, one of the things to note is that the law library provides legal reference, not legal advice. So there's a couple of ways that we could differentiate the two. And some of those are as follows. So for example, the legal definition of words versus interpreting what that law means or how it applies to your specific situation. The next would be identifying procedural definitions versus providing procedural recommendations. So for example, like a guardianship proceeding has several steps in it. So part of the law library's role is to help you be knowledgeable of the steps to take, but not necessarily to tell you like, oh, this is you're right here, here's the next step to take, things like that. The next would be showing how to find legislation versus researching and applying law to a situation. So that would be like applying a specific law or statute and saying this is what would apply to your situation and you should go forward with this. So that would be legal advice. The next would be directing patrons to resources with court forms versus filling out or recommending forms. And then lastly, it would be providing a lawyer referral service information versus providing a specific lawyer's contact information. So this is common because we refer people to either RCBA or ILA, and we're not able to provide you with a specific lawyer in San Diego, for example, and their contact information. So we would only be able to go through the lawyer referral service. Yes, RCBA is Riverside County Bar Association. The other way. Okay. So why we can't provide legal advice? So it is against the law. No person should practice law in California unless the person is an active licensee of the state bar. So you can find that in the Business and Professions Code. So that covers the basically responsibilities and abilities of lawyers and paralegals, for example. So next. So some additional resources would be the Ask a Law Librarian live chat. So the Ask a Law Librarian live chat is a statewide kind of program where you can log in, or not log in, you can submit a question, and law librarians across the state each have a time, and they log in for the hour and they just live chat answer questions. So the website is Cal County Law lib.libanswers.com. So for example, mine is Wednesdays at 2. So from Wednesdays at 2, I log in and I just answer questions, and usually it's very busy, and it's able to provide people with a starting point on where they can find legal resources. Next would be of course, the Riverside Superior Court website. So this is very helpful to look up the self-help center information, to find local forms, and other information on filing. And then one of the most useful resources that I can find are the SAC Law LibGuides. So the SAC Law LibGuides are very, very useful to providing almost step-by-step instruction to a lot of very common legal issues. So for example, being sued, how to change your name, how to collect a judgment, things like that. And these are so very helpful, and they have the relevant California code or legislation material and forms for each topic. So here's an example. This is a really common one that question we get all the time. So we send out this this LibGuide. So this is basically responding to a lawsuit, how you would do so, the basics, the deadlines, and the associated forms attached to something like this. Another resource is, of course, me or us. You can send a request to me, your friendly neighborhood law librarian, and we have a reference request form that if you call us over the phone, I'm doing a call, not a thumbs up. If you call us over the phone and I don't answer, our person at the front desk will answer, and they'll take down all your information so that we can best answer your question. And then we will send a response very timely. We try to get it done within 24 hours and we answer in the order they are received. You can either call us to submit this question or submit it on our website as well. So the next slide will have Jenna, an example of like some of the questions we ask. So we'll ask to summarize your request and to, you know, an example or any additional information that you can provide, because oftentimes that information is helpful in determining what the specific legal issue is and the information that we can provide. And then lastly, if you didn't attend earlier, we have something called the Lexis Digital Library. So the Lexis Digital Library, just like if you have like a Kindle or a public library card where you can get books on your iPad, we do the same thing with law books. They may not be as exciting, but they're useful to have just in case you're doing legal research at home, or if you need access, you know, on the job. So to request access, you just fill out the digital library requests. If you need help, you can always call us over the phone to do that as well. But you could find this request on our website. And then here's an example. So we have the California Forms of Pleadings and Practice on there. So pretty much almost anything that Lexis has in print, we also try to have on the Lexis Digital Library. And then once you open it, it reads just like a digital book, and you can highlight and take notes and everything like that. So see, you would just click read, and then you would open it up. And then, okay, so for legal research, I have this chart here from Westlaw that is very helpful for just going over the very, very basics of legal research. So the first step would be to ask yourself, you know, a couple questions, you know, try to determine what are the facts, what are the things that are standing out, what is the legal issue. So oftentimes in the midst of a long story, the issue is buried. And to determine what the legal issue is, you kind of have to maybe write it out and narrow it down to that. And then lastly, it would be what is the jurisdiction? So sometimes forms or jurisdictional matters differ based off jurisdiction, obviously. So for example, civil is different from family law and things like that. So it's important to narrow down and identify the jurisdiction. So once you have identified all the facts and what your legal issue is, now you need to find sources of law to support your legal argument and other information that could help you greater understand what the legal issue is. So you can start with secondary resources. So secondary sources would include legal treatises, legal articles, horn books, things like that, that maybe can go into depth of a legal issue. And then next, it would be to identify your primary sources of law. So primary sources of law differ from secondary because primary sources are sources that are derived from legislation or case law. So that's something directly taken by the court. So for example, case law determined by a case, that's primary source, versus an article talking about it, that's a secondary source. And then lastly, once you have gathered all of these sources and information, it would be really important to determine that the cases that you are using to support your argument are good law. So on Westlaw, you can determine if they're good law by using Keysight and seeing the different indicators. And then on Lexis, it's the same thing. They're going to use indicators as well. And it's called shepherdizing on Lexis. So you can find good law usually by a green indicator, and it will be the most useful in your legal argument. You don't want to use bad law because bad law means that it's overturned, it's currently up for debate, things like that. So to recap, my tips and tricks for legal research would be to determine your legal issue. So for example, if there's a long story about an eviction process, or a long story about your security deposit being withheld, what is the legal issue at hand? Is it that the security deposit was withheld more than 21 days, for example, things like that. Next would be to narrow your jurisdiction. Next would be to set expectations. No two cases are the same. So it's very common that people are asking for cases that are like theirs, and that can be really helpful because it can lead you to additional primary resources. But it's important to note that no two cases are the same, and that everything's going to be just a little bit different and situational depending on the factors at hand and the legal facts. Next would be to check your sources, make sure that they are all legitimate sources, good law, and consult secondary sources like legal treatises, articles, journals, encyclopedias, etc., to get a greater understanding of the legal issue at hand. And so now would be time for any questions for me or Jenna about the resources that the law library provides.
I'm checking the chat